Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Here,
Good culture eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker, the founder of management, the genius of management of the 21st century. Gosh. Um, 20th century. What am I saying? That'd be good. That'd be good to be able to figure out this. Yeah, 20th century, the early 1900s. He passed probably in 2005, a pioneer in consulting. Well, what did he mean by culture eats strategy for breakfast? And what is culture matters? What do we do? Why do we do it? How do we do it? I want to go over a brief overview, or really what's behind the Culture Matters podcast, who I am, Jay Doran, the culture man, what that even means. It's a bit presumptuous, I think, even as a title. I'll talk about that a little bit, but this and why culture eats strategy for breakfast. There are many ways to look at that quote, but one of the ways to look at it would be as important. I'm sorry, culture eats strategy. Yeah, culture eats strategy for breakfast. As important strategy is, and it is vitally important. Strategy is tied to the vision. Strategy is tied to the aim in a Peterson sense, or Petersonian sense. Strategy is where we're go is tied to where we're going and why we're going there, the teleology or the purpose, the drivers behind the business, what we do for customers and with one another. But why would culture eat strategy for breakfast? Because if culture is what actually happens, it's that invisible, it's that invisible bridge between what's a vision at the top and the conversations and the objectives and the goals and how they're actually executed at the very bottom of the organization, but not just at the bottom of the organization, all the way through the organization, like blood flowing through veins of a human body. If there are any clots or clogs, something is going to go wrong in that human body. And no matter how wonderfully the brain is operating, the heart, all of the different aspects of that human body and the human being will be deeply impacted in a negative way if that blood stops flowing through that. So culture eats strategy for breakfast is to highlight the importance of actually getting things done, making that vision and that strategy a reality based on what actually happens and who's actually responsible, who's actually in charge. The core values are what actually happen in the culture versus what is just what is being spoken about and conceptualized. It's not necessarily an either or, as McGilchrist would say, but a both and an either or. It's not just either or both and, but both and either or. Good morning. So culture eats strategy for breakfast highlights the importance of what actually happens in an organization. Who's in charge? Who's responsible for what? Are we living the things that we talk about, the values that we preach, the stories that we believe drive us? What is actually happening? It highlights that. I think the essence of strategy is execution, is a Michael Porter quote. So Drucker saying culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's coming from a strong place. I want to highlight his background a little bit. So, yeah, he lived in the 20th century, 1909 until 2005, an Austrian American management consultant, educator, and author whose writings contributed to the philosophical and practical foundations of modern management theory. He was also a leader in the development of management education and invented the concepts known as management by objectives and self-control. He has been described as the champion of management as a serious discipline. Why is Drucker important in this discussion around what is culture matters? How do we help organizations? Why does culture matter? What do we do? Management as a serious discipline. Well, think about it. If culture eats strategy for breakfast, because strategy, although vital, execution is what reveals it to be accurate or true or valuable. Execution is what leads to shareholder value. Execution is what leads to customer value, customer satisfaction, customer experience, upward mobility for employees to move. To make sure that that strategy actually gets executed, or to help ensure that things are actually happen the way that they're supposed to, or they should, or they've been spoken and thought of to actually occur. It's an accountability we talk about, and it's talked about so much on the Culture Matters podcast. Accountability, responsibility. Accountability is based on feedback loops. Responsibility is inbuilt character based, and each individual based on their own background, education, family, individual culture, like, milieu that they're brought up into. The organization also influences that responsibility based on how it's structured, the how the roles, the responsibilities, the titles, and how the organization invests or doesn't invest back into its itself, essentially. And there's so many factors that go into creating a successful organization. Management's role is to help organizations with that entire process. How does Culture Matters actually do that? Culture Matters comes alongside. Culture Matters helps companies clarify who they are and align their people with their purpose so they can scale without losing their soul. It's about soul. Soul, now that's esoteric. Broken down, it's what's what do we believe? Why do we believe it? What's our purpose? Why? Where are we going? And those conversations, that dialogue, that thinking process, that begins the journey of re-engagement. Re-engagement leads to, because it's a process, it's an activity. Re-engagement from ownership and management leads to paying closer attention to the organization and taking more seriously the people aspect of the organization and how the organization is actually, in what way the organization is providing what the people need to succeed at the highest level possible to make the organization more successful. We will get in the trenches. We will get our hands dirty. We take pride in actually getting things done for our client partners in that process of reevaluating an organization and attempting to help figure out what the soul is and how to actually make the culture great. Because culture matters because, it's what actually happens. It's how the organization actually serves its customers, how it evolves and competes against the forces of market competition. It's the soul of the organization that impacts all the souls that work with the organization, as well as all the souls that get to benefit from an organization, which are in the first to solve customers' problems, whatever they may be, from goods and services. Management is, traditionally a behind the scenes culture in itself, like the people in suits in the background influencing governments and political structures and the biggest companies in the world. I think has evolved our culture and the world is becoming flatter. Um, these these two worlds are colliding, and that's what I'm excited about on a personal level. But from a business standpoint, with the Culture Matters podcast, you've seen me interview, share, build relationships with amazing executives, employees of all walks of life. And you're watching in real time work with our client partners, with our referral partners, with our network, and build this beautiful culture of people to help them grow their companies and increase shareholder value. So I hope this was helpful, and I'm sharing more and more about um, what we do and why we do it, and a little bit of how we do it. And think of this as the beginning of a series of these conversations. If you're listening to this, please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time.